Someone asked me a question as part of an interview. The question is, I read your book Endgame, and one of the main things I've noticed is that you pay close attention to the psychological reasons behind the unsustainability of society. For example, I feel that humanity has taken on the role of abuser against the planet and against nature, and that's a hard role to exit from. And when solutions are proposed by scientists and typically mainstream environmentalists, they focus only on engineering and economic solutions, such as creating new markets for solar panels or creating new technologies in the hope that they will save us in some miraculous way. Yeah, right. As someone who has spent a lot of time going against the mainstream, how do you think activists could start to get people to look at and even start healing the systemic psychological problems of society that are also a serious obstacle to sustainability? I even wonder sometimes if we first need to overcome such problems before we can even begin thinking about a true revolution against civilization, which may be necessary to truly get to a sustainable path. So I think that's a fabulous question and is in many ways central to all of my work. It's and I have an example, we could come up with a million examples. I have an example from just recently. Oh, like a month or two ago, I posted on Facebook that the population of India, the birth rate of India has gone below replacement level. And that's great news. And I posted that on Facebook stupidly. And uh, I couldn't believe the responses. People were getting really mad because they're saying, no, population has nothing to do with the problem. It's entirely consumption. And those people have to learn the words and both, because it is both population and consumption. Both of those contribute. And other people are saying it's racist to even bring this up. They're saying, no, it's just all sorts of just completely insane responses. One person said, but those are babies, and babies don't actually eat very much. It's like, yeah, but babies grow up into adults. And anyway, so the responses were knee jerk. Okay, so fast forward to like 3 days ago, and I foolishly posted something about there was this video of a beach in China that is just packed with people. It's like sardine can, it's insane how many people there are there. And I said the same thing. There's just too many people, and we have exceeded carrying capacity. And again, it was the same sort of responses. And I used to get this same stuff whenever I would bring up 25 years ago when I was doing talks, and 20 years ago I used to have jokes about how every time you say it, there are things you can't talk about in a society, like there are too many humans. As soon as you say that, people start spitting neo-Malthusian at you, or they start saying that you must not like babies. Actually, don't really like babies. Um, or, all this other stuff they're throwing at you. And one guy on online said, no, 8 billion people does not exceed carrying capacity for humans. And so I was talking to a friend of mine about this who does numbers, Tom Murphy, and he does Do the Math website. And I said, would you like to address some of these? And he said, I can't disprove this because they're not on the real axis, these concerns. I mean, the idea that humans have not exceeded carrying capacity is not a reality. We're talking about articles of faith here. And he said, all I could do is point out that without fossil fuels, there's not 8 million humans on the planet. So obviously we exceeded carrying capacity. Anyway, the point I'm getting at is that if we can't have a rational, reasonable discussion, if we can't acknowledge, if we can't even say that there are more humans on the planet than the planet can support, we can't ever start to solve any of the problems we face. Years and years ago, decades ago, I asked the one of the assistant directors of the Forest Service, if we determine that industrial forestry is incompatible with healthy forests, what then? And his response was, what do you want us to do? Live in mud huts? And he didn't address the question. And central to all of my work from the beginning has been really that any culture crazy enough to kill the planet would be too crazy to be able to talk about it reasonably. If we could talk about it reasonably, we wouldn't be doing it. And it's the same within an abusive family dynamic. I mean, it doesn't it doesn't really make much sense to beat your kid so bad that he ends up with brain damage. I mean, that just doesn't, that's not, there are, one of the problems, I read this interesting book decades ago called The Psychoanalytic Roots of Patriarchy by J.W. Smith or something. I don't remember what his name was, but the title I got correctly. And the point of the book was that those with neuroses or psychoses will generally be able to, they will generally have more energy to feed their neuroses and psychoses than regular people have to fight them. Because we, I'm going to go a slightly different direction for a second. That I was listening to an interview the other day of someone about um, some of the strongest defenders of what has, it's a big topic these days to talk about so-called gender affirming surgery for children. And what that means is cutting off the breasts, the healthy breasts of young girls, or mutilating the genitals of boys or girls, or putting them through puberty blockers. That may make it so they can never experience sexual energy in their lives. And some of the strongest defenders of this to the end are going to be the parents who participated in this process because they can never face what they did to their children. And when the person in the interview was saying that, I immediately thought yet again of how we collectively, some individuals, yes, can face what we're doing to the planet, but we collectively will never be able to acknowledge that civilization itself is killing the planet and that we have made a terrible mistake. Because if we do, we have to acknowledge what a terrible, terrible mistake we have done. And we will spend, we collectively, I mean, I know I've done this in my life. I mess up somewhere and I do something bad, and then I spend more energy covering it up than I do actually just acknowledging that I made a mistake. I can't be wrong on that level. I've done it myself. And I remember once where I didn't do it. I was probably 12 or 13, and I was at one of my relatives' house in rough housing, and I broke a lamp. And I just went up and told my cousin, who was older than I was, told my cousin, sorry, I broke your lamp. And she said, actually, you admitting that you broke it is worth more to me than the lamp because I know so many teenagers who don't acknowledge they would have just tried to hide it. And that's what we try to do on the bigger scale. We don't grow up to be able to acknowledge. I was seeing this the same with I was reading a novel about post World War II Germany, and he was making the exact same point that some of the people who had the hardest time admitting anything that they had done wrong were some of the people who were most crucial to the atrocities because you can't admit. And so, what do we do as activists? Part of it, when I encounter someone who says that, oh, another thing people were saying about population was that uh, population loss, the a decrease in population would be catastrophic and would cause more harm to the planet than a continued increase of population. And when you're dealing with somebody who's that ideological, I don't attempt to talk to them. If I engage them at all, if it's private, I don't engage at all. If it's public, I'm not engaging them. I'm making the arguments for everybody else so that somebody else can then make these arguments if they face this. And something that has profoundly influenced how I think is that I read somewhere, somebody or another saying it takes 10 years to change your mind. And I have almost never changed, like twice in my life, have I made an argument and somebody has gone, oh, yeah, you're right, and changed their mind immediately. And it goes the other way too. I'm not saying I'm better than anybody else. I'm the same as other people. So often, a lot of my great ideas and books have come from other people because they'll say something to me and I'll say, God, nah, it doesn't make any sense to me. I completely disagree with that idea. And then, like 2 years later, I will go back to that same person and say, hey, I had this great idea. And then I will repeat the thing that they said to me 2 years ago. That's how minds change for real. They don't change because I show you in this moment or you show me in this moment. What happens is you show me in this moment, and I'm like, nah, that's nonsense. And then 6 months, a year later, 2 years later, I have this great idea. So all I do is I try to plant seeds. I can say civilization is inherently unsustainable. And people are like, nah, I disagree. I'm like, okay, fine. Well, let's just talk about this, this, this. I lay out some of the facts. They disagree with them. It's like, okay. And then I go on. And I mean, I go somewhere else. It's all fine. Because I don't think that people change their minds immediately. So what I think we as activists can do, I think one thing that is vital is that we adhere to the truth and that we continue to say, this is unsustainable. Yes, industrial forestry is unsustainable. Yes, non-humans are not resources. They are other beings with life as valuable to them as yours is to you and mine is to me. And they may think you're crazy in the moment, and that's okay. Um, and then 5 years later, they may have this brainstorm. And I think for me, the most important thing is to not try to convince people, especially don't bother to try to. I had this, I may have said this in one of these videos before, but this is so funny. Back 30 years ago, I learned this lesson because I was at a Forest Service meet and greet, and I got into a 2 or 3 hour argument with this guy over whether clear cuts are bad or not. And that's my dog pushing the chair around. He, uh, he was arguing the clear cuts are good things. I was arguing they're bad things. And I was a 30-year-old activist, and he was the retired owner of a drive-in movie theater. Neither one of us was a decision maker. So even if he would have convinced me or I would have convinced him, it would have made no difference to policy. So yes, I will argue with policymakers right now, but I'm not going to argue with random people because even if I do change my mind, it doesn't matter. And so I will just present facts. So what I think we need to do is we need to tell the truth. We need to stick to the truth. We need to keep repeating it. And one more way to look at this is medically. I mean, we've all known people who know that cigarette smoking is killing them and they don't stop. And I love the medical line. I love the medical approach to this. The way they told me I had Crohn's disease is they just came in and said, I'm sorry, the biopsy shows you have Crohn's disease. Just tell the truth. It's up to me whether I accept it or not. And then, as a doctor friend of mine always says, correct diagnosis is the first step toward proper treatment. And I think we need to just keep laying out the proper diagnosis, the correct diagnosis. And if people don't accept it, they're not going to because they have a lot invested. Um, and our loyalty is to, we just need to keep telling the truth because at some point it will become obvious to everyone.